in a world where people are seeking instant gratification, wanting to massage their egos as quickly as possible, quiet their imposter, tell the kind of quiet demons in their mind, I am enough, I am good enough. We're seeking all the different instant rushes to quiet and placate our minds and our souls. And that has turned into is into the race to nowhere, the rush to be busy, the constant aversion or pushing away of playing a long-term game. And this episode is really all about embracing the mindset of the long game and delayed gratification. So I want to kick off this conversation with, how do you define instant gratification versus delayed gratification from the lens of a school leader?
At now in the season that I'm in, like, instant gratification can look very different probably than other people's instant gratification. Mine is just getting that parent that comes up to you and tells you how amazing a teacher is, or tells you that an event that you've had year after year after year, they just can't imagine not having it, and it's so wonderful, and they're so excited to be there, even though they've been there maybe and done it for 5 years. Yet they're still coming back to you. Those, for me, are my instant gratifications. Or maybe as a teacher coming and just talking about, once again, of how much of a support system that she has or he has in the school. Those are my instant gratifications. They're smaller, but they bring me so much joy. Delayed gratification for me are those bigger things that I'm working on. The bringing out just an idea to someone, maybe a teacher or one of my admin, and we start to mull it over. Part of that delayed gratification is being able to sit in the quiet and being able to reflect on it and say to myself, how would this look? How would this feel? Who would be involved? And really going over many, many things before kind of like pulling that trigger and actually doing something. And then again, it's something that's going to take time. And that I know at some point will transpire and will be really great.
So you show up with, a certain kind of conviction in really trusting that it's okay to go slow. It's okay to have a longer conversation. It's okay to not pull the trigger immediately. It's okay to loop back and have the dialogue. You don't operate from a sense of urgency and scarcity and now and now and more and more. And I want to take the audience and all the listeners back to a time. Do you remember a time when you did operate in this kind of forensic motion? And what were some of the transition points to bring you to this place of such equanimity and balance, and you operate from a place of benevolence and generosity for the team?
Absolutely, I've been there, and I can't say that I'm never there now.
Okay.
Right? Like, we all feel it. We all feel that all of a sudden we get caught up in something and we're like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. But like you're saying, it's the self-talk in my head of what I have to do to bring myself back. And so definitely years ago, I think it was, more of even being almost in that fight or flight mode and always feeling I wasn't sure what I wanted. And that's where I was actually going out there and just trying to get this and get that and see what that was like. And how does that make me feel? And what's that going to do for these people? And I got to make them happy. Oh, but I got to be happy too. And it was kind of this definitely frenzied mode. Yeah. this loop of just I don't even hysteria maybe. And so, obviously joining with you has helped me over the years. Having someone that has already that mindset and already can help to start bringing you and help slowing you down has also really helped me in slowing my own mind down. But I had to start looking at what I wanted overall, right? We had to have the bigger goals. We had to have the vision. And once I started realizing that I really needed a vision, then I was able to start putting everything through that lens. And once I was able to do that, I started to be able to back off that some of these things that I thought I really wanted to do and what I thought was going to bring me this instant gratification were really just more work. They weren't really bringing me instant gratification, me personally. They might have been bringing other people some gratification, but it wasn't necessarily bringing me gratification. But I will also say on that piece, when we have that need for that instant gratification, we're also often hurting our teachers because we are expecting more of them and we're putting more and more on them and then wondering why they're also in a frenzy. So we also have to be that role model for who we're working with to slow down. And once we can slow down, mostly, our teams will slow down also.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the, I don't know if I call them root causes, because again, there's people that struggle with these things that I'm going to share, but still operate from a different place. But some of the common places that this frenzic, rushed, instant gratification comes from is the scarcity around, I don't have enough kids. My center isn't full yet. I'm not fully staffed. And so there's almost this self-inflicting chain that I see owners put on themselves where until I get to this place, I am not allowed to slow down, to take a breath, to pause, to breathe, to think. I have to run on this treadmill to nowhere until I have all these things. And I think there is some validity to the scarcity feeling around, am I going to pay the bills? Can I pay the mortgage? Am I going to cover the electricity bill this month? There's so much of that. And I know we've all been there at some point, right? It's almost this rite of passage. How did you work through those feelings without this frantic craziness? Like, how did you work through? Because again, like you were saying, there's always going to be seasons of stress and anxiety. Maybe it's not about, am I paying the bill? Because you've built enough cushion to always pay bills, but it's about other things, right? And that's where you have to unshackle yourself. Now it's about, I can't pay the bills, so I can't do this. Then it's about, I'm not fully enrolled, so I have to do it. Then it's about other things. It doesn't end.
No, it doesn't end.
Let's really break this. We need to shatter this myth that it's almost like we keep pushing the end goal away. Like when this, then finally I can rest. No, rest today. Let's talk about that.
I guess I would ask the listeners to ask themselves, when is enough? Right? When is just what you're doing now really great? And later can be great too, with something different later on. But right now, what is great and what is good enough for you? And yeah, when is it enough to just sit in that? A lot of people can't just sit and not even talk, right? Their minds are going so fast. And I would say, mine goes quickly also.
Sure.
But then write those things down. I'm always thinking of new ideas. There's always projects that I can stick in somewhere. Always, always, always. But you just write them down. And I guess also I have a good admin team that will help me to slow down sometimes also. That's why it's good to have someone and just share with them of, this is part of me as part of a CEO. I'm a visionary. I want all these things. Um, and you should never stop, like thinking, right? Like, and having visions of things, but you need to write those down and then pick and choose what is really going to be best for your school. Um, it was it was hard making a transition, I'll say, because in my early years, I felt like everything had to be done. We needed we needed more staff, we were getting more children, then it gave us more money. Then what do we do with the extra money? And, so it's that vicious cycle again. But I've worked on it for quite some time of just starting to really say to slow down. And, during 2020, when most of the childcare industry was bottoming out, it didn't mean I wasn't scared. It didn't mean I didn't have my moment of, holy crap, what am I going to do? But then I slowed down and said, I can't control this. And so now I just have to think differently because these things aren't going to happen right now. So I then looked at what were my long-term plans? And, we picked a couple of projects and said, these are going to be the things that we do. And this is our vision. And we weren't constantly just like, how can I get more children? How can I do this? How can I do that? It was looking at other things. And the children came back because, again, we didn't have control of that. We didn't know when that would happen. So we didn't charge ourselves up and get really ramped during 2020.
I think I want to go back to the point that you said just a couple moments ago. When is enough enough? And for those of you that are listening, enough is never enough if you don't feel like you're enough. And the moment you can stand in your own conviction that you are enough and what you're doing is enough, that is when you truly put on the giant brakes and say, okay, what I'm doing is enough. And now let me get to play. What new projects do I want to do? How do I want to show up in the world? What is the energy I want to give? Where do I want to put my energy? So I really appreciate that question, Sharon, because I think that really ties so much into the instant gratification where we're seeking this gratification because we're like, well, if I do more, then am I enough? If I hit this goal, maybe then I'll feel like enough. But it's a bottomless pit, right? You never get off of that because you constantly seek it more and more and more and more. And so it never ends.
I think that also that's part of what people perceive to be a CEO. Or no,
Yeah.
That if I'm not always doing, then I'm not producing.
Sure.
And as a CEO, I must do this because how will everyone know what to do
And what my value is. And am I good?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also where we have to relook at what is a CEO and a CEO over time. You're always going to be the CEO. You have plenty of time to do things. But yes, you have to stop and say to yourself, because I am the CEO, I do get to pause and go and do this. I do get to have these days and go and do something for me. So I think it's somewhat of redefining to ourselves what is a CEO of an early childhood center.
And I think the definition is ever evolving, and that's what's scary for many. Our definition of a CEO in one season of life means something else. And as our lives evolution and things happen, and God puts new things in front of us and new roadblocks and obstacles and opportunities, the definition evolves. And that's where the scarcity and the kind of fear or frenzy comes from, where we're like, hey, I was just getting comfortable over here and now I need to change again. Or, hey, we just reached this level of equilibrium and now we have to change again. as opposed to looking at it not, hey, I just reached here and now I have to change again. No, this is part of the cycle. The cycle is that we're always changing. We're always evolving. We're always growing. I want to talk a little bit about the delayed gratification piece when it comes to hitting goals. I think in the beginning, when we get started in our businesses, when we get started in being the childcare, whether you're a director or you're coaching directors or a VP of operations, executive retail, it doesn't matter the title. It's when we enter this role, the automatic response is the imposter that is going to be there. The imposter never leaves, because every time you get the imposter to be quiet, now you're in a new role and the imposter comes back again, right? So it never goes away for good. The question is, do you develop the practice of how to tell him to be quiet, of how to quiet that mind and say, I am enough, I can step into this. So when we're in this beginning phase, we need a lot of wins right away. So we choose projects that give us quick wins, right? That give us quick results. But if you want to stay in business for decades, you have to switch to playing the long game, because you can't build a sustainable business on quick wins. So how did you start to make the transition to not needing instant gratification, but playing a long game?
Well, for one, honey, I think that we actually can play the long game and still get some instant gratifications in there.
Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah.
Because there are milestones all along the way. And if you start saying to yourself that this milestone, it's a celebration, I've won, or whatever you might be thinking at that point, because you've hit that milestone. There could be 100 milestones to get you to what your dream is, your vision, whatever that is, that goal. But if you can look at all of these minor, minuscule steps along the way, you really can have instant wins if you perceive them as that.
Yeah.
Right? And you can celebrate. Your instant gratification doesn't have to be this like fireworks and explosion of glitter and all of that. So it can just be that you've hit the next milestone, and it's a little mini celebration. Again, and it can be one just for yourself, right? Not everyone needs to know about it. It doesn't need to be the production and show it, And so for me, I think that's kind of where my mind started changing, was that I kind of felt like my wins and all of that had to be big, that instant gratification. And then I started saying, I can't keep up that pace, for one. And at one point, I'm sure we've all, as the CEOs, been where it's only us. And how long can you sustain? You don't have directors. You're just running it all. So yes, it did help as I got a little bit more help also to take some things off my plate. But my mind had to start saying, I have to start using these little wins as my instant gratification. And once I started being able to do that too, that kept fueling me towards my end goal, each step I take. My goal right now that I have, it's taking 2 years. It's really taken a lot more years than that, because I've been thinking and developing over the years, but coming into fruition now, it's a 2-year plan. That's a long time to think that my instant or my gratification, my big one, is going to be down the road. But I'm using every single little milestone as, I got that done. Yay. I did it.
So this is so powerful, right? Because that's the power of the celebration and the feedback loops, right? Where we're closing those feedback loops that we're winning. One of the things that you and I had chatted about when you came to the Legacy Mastermind here in Florida, one of the things we were talking about is closing the stress cycle, right? And closing the cycle for our teams, recognizing, hey, we just, crossed a big celebration. And then also the flip side saying, hey, we just walked through something really difficult and now we're on the other side of it, right? So it's both. It's the celebration of something amazing, and it's also the celebration that we overcame this big challenge. I'm curious to hear, in the beginning days, or, for some of the people that are listening, why don't we celebrate often? Why do we wait for the grand fireworks? Why don't we celebrate the small things? And then how did you shift to start celebrating those micro wins?
Well, first of all, I think we don't even give ourselves time to celebrate anything. I mean, even we might have a big win, but we're on to the next big win and the next big time to celebrate. And because we always are feeling like we need to be in action and we need to be doing. Like I said about that CEO feeling like they just have to keep going. And after their first or their next thing is done, then they have to go to the next thing. And when you go so quickly, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question right now, but this is my thoughts in the moment.
Yeah.
When you go so quickly, when I was saying that if you don't give yourself time to sit in the quiet or to be calm, what I have found now that I can is that before I was not reflecting on anything. I really wasn't asking myself questions to be able to dig deeper, to really see what it was that I needed, or what it was that my teachers needed, or the admin staff, or why was something, I wasn't getting to the root of a problem, right? A lot of times my goals were just trying to mend the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really ever then getting to my end goal because I was missing all of these links. And once I started being able to sit in the quiet and reflect and really understand what was going on, asking myself those deeper questions, was I able to slow down and really start to get to the root of my problems or the things that were going on that I really needed to tackle. So I was giving myself all of these little micro wins and all of these celebrations and all of these things, but sometimes I wasn't reflecting to be able to choose the right next project, if that makes sense.
Yes, of course. So
I was just masking things.
Yeah. So I'll explain a little bit deeper what Sharon's saying here is what happens is when you don't take the time to celebrate and you don't close feedback loops, then you don't give yourself the data that you need to make informed decisions. And so you make decisions based on what everyone else is doing or what the market is doing or what quote unquote best practice is. When really that has nothing to do with you. That best practice might be horrible practice for you based on where you live and what your current circumstances are. And so your practice that you've really adopted, Sharon, is the feedback loops give you the data to make the slow, informed, methodical decision. And you give yourself permission to sit in the data long enough to get to the root of the problem, right? The data that you're looking at isn't financial data where it's like, well, the numbers just say X, Y, and Z, so that's the story. The data that you're looking at is very complex. It's very nuanced. It's contextual to each human being. And people aren't spreadsheets, right? You can't put human beings on spreadsheets and make decisions. And that's where you need the time and white space and margin and energy to make those decisions.
Yes. And when I started doing that, I still felt like I had those micro wins because I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I've asked myself the right question, where I might get on, a quick call with one of the owners that I know and friends with, or the legacy. And I'm like, hey, what are your thoughts about this? And then, they asked me a couple of questions. That's why community is so great here, is because I can reach out to those people that I trust and that I know, and they could help me see things in a different way too. And so, yeah, again, it just gives us that time with that data. You're exactly right.
How did you shift? And I'm curious I'm trying to remember because I don't remember you ever being like this, but I'm curious, maybe you were before before our lifetime started together. I find that many leaders are constantly seeking, I need the blueprint. I need the system. Give me the checklist. What's the next hack? What's the thing, right? Tell me the secret. And I don't remember you ever being like that. I feel like it was, well, what question should I ask? Or what can I reflect on? Or what? And so here's the thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for the hack or the tip or the trick. I ask for hacks also all the time. What's a great podcast hack, or how do I get more downloads, or whatever it is. But then at a certain point, it's like, you got to stop hunting for the hack or the quick thing and do the deep work. How do we make that transition as school leaders?
I'm not so sure that we can do it by ourselves almost.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that we can't, right? Because I mean, some people probably can, but I don't think I could. I listened to people prior to hearing your thoughts on things. I did listen to other people about what they thought their, the way to get there, right? The way to get to the top and the way to make more money and fill your center and all of those things. But, it was interesting because I listened to those. They were very, open and out there, right? Like fluid, that you could just look it up on Google and you'd find people talking about all those things.
Sure.
And I thought that's what I needed, but that was never my mindset of why I opened a Montessori school. It was never to just fill it up, make more money, and just keep rotating that, right? Children coming in, or
repeat, recycle.
Yeah. But I think in my early years of doing this, that's what I thought it was supposed to be, even though my mind was telling me something different. And then I started listening to different voices. They weren't just in my head, I promise. So, but listening to people that thought about things differently. You were one of them. And you started asking questions, not to me personally, because you didn't even know me personally yet before I ever started listening to you. But you didn't ever talk about enrollment. You didn't talk about how to make money. You talked about community. You talked about gratitude. You talked about all these other deeper issues and deeper things that I needed to think about. I'm like, yeah, that is really what I wanted to go towards. I just didn't realize how to do it. And so I hate to say it was kind of a fast transition for me, because I hooked on to this of like, this is what I needed. I don't want to worry about finances and enrollment all the time. There has to be more to this. And so that's why I think too, it's, the importance of all of that. I had to be, because early on, it was all the quick fixes and what could I do quick, and because it was only me again, right? And anything I could do quickly was great.
Yeah. Do you ever feel, because I see this sometimes also, where everything's going well, right? There's going to be people that are listening to this that are like, well, everything's going well, right? And then everyone has a different definition of going well. For most people, the definition of going well is I'm fully enrolled, I'm fully staffed, there are no issues being thrown on my plate on a daily basis, we're good, right? You always capitalize on those opportunities. You never sit in the boredom of like, well, everything's fine, so I'm good. I don't need community anymore. I don't need mentorship anymore. I don't need coaching anymore. I'm good. Why do you view it so differently? Why do you view the good, beautiful moments as opportunities, as opposed to dead weight of like, okay, let me stop doing all these things because I'm all good now?
No. I don't think I could ever.
This isn't.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Not having a community of like-minded people to talk to. In fact, it's been in those moments that gives me the opportunity and time to reach out to more people, right? So yes, we might be okay, and we're doing fine and things are running okay, but I still need people. I still need to talk to people. I need to dive deeper. Because inevitably I'm missing something. Down and when I say missing something, I'm saying missing in my how deep I'm diving. There's a question. The something is a question, probably.
There's a layer deeper that you can go, and you always
Yes, absolutely is. And I'm sure that you've seen that transpire with me over the years.
Sure.
Of like, even even in the last few months, there's not really been anything new on my plate. It's just we're going along, and we have our events and we have our things and whatever. I have to say, people might look at this and go, oh, well, Sharon, you've been doing this, you've had Honey, you've had all of these things. You know what? I'm in the thick of it right now. We're down in enrollment. We haven't had someone apply for one of our positions for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. Haven't even had an application. And we're down. But we're not going to let that get us down, right? We just have to figure out, and we understand. I know I understand that the right person's going to come. I just know that.
For a second, you're down in enrollment, and you have a position that hasn't been filled, right? But we have such a close relationship. I talk to you all the time, and yet I didn't know that problem existed for you. Why?
Right.
Here's one of the reasons why, is because you're not bringing that problem forward because you know how to solve it. You know the rhythm that you have to go through. You know what you need to do. You're coming to community and mentorship and coaching for different reasons now, because you've built the muscles and the routines and the systems of how to do all of these things. And so now there's a different definition of what does it mean to get support? What does it mean to go deeper?
Yes. I come to community for different things now. Right.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask community about my calendar. I don't need to ask community, about those things. Yeah. And everyone does at some point. I mean, that is a part of the whole journey.
Yes.
But, but if you're sitting there saying to yourself, yeah, well, I don't have a problem with my calendar. I don't have a problem with gratitude. My culture's pretty good. My time isn't too bad. And you have those 4 things under control, you think you're done. And you so don't have it done. So those are just the 4 things we need to look at right away.
Yeah.
And but there's deeper diving into each of those areas constantly. So,
and that's where, again, closing this loop here again, is where the delayed gratification comes from, right? Because now the gratitude isn't instant. Now you're taking it a layer deeper, so you see the feedback loop maybe 6 months later. Now when you're working on energy management or time or culture, or working on up-leveling the team to be better leaders, now it's not a 2-week cycle. Now it's a 12-month, 18-month cycle. You spoke about, even though it's an 18-month cycle, you have these micro wins and these mile markers where you're constantly celebrating success as you go along. For the leader who's listening, who feels like, how will I ever get to a place like that? How will I ever get to a place where I'm enough, where I feel like I'm enough, where I feel like my school is enough, where I can take the time to pause and breathe? What is a little lifeline or something you can throw to the person who's listening, that what you're sharing is not beyond anyone? Because I think you're a legendary leader. I don't think you have superpowers. I think you're an ordinary person who's delivering extraordinary results with a lot of patience.
Thank you, for one, for saying that. The thing is I think anyone could do that just today.
Yeah.
It is about, for me, really that mindset. I know we keep saying the word mindset, shift and change and all of that. But it is, because if you don't ask yourself, what is going on? Why do I feel like I have to constantly have wins, that I constantly have to have this, or feel like, someone is telling me something great about the school, or if there's, I can go a month without, don't shoot me here. I could go a month almost without seeing a parent.
Yeah.
with my position now.
Yeah.
But I don't need 10 parents telling me this month of how great of a school. Because what I need is those parents telling the teachers. And I may never hear about it, but I need them telling the teachers. I don't need them telling me. Because I'm confident that I know that that's what our school is. And I think self-talk is huge too.
Okay.
And that you have to start telling yourself every day that what's right now is great. What we're doing is really great. Or even if it's just good. I mean, good is good, right? I mean, I used to tell students when I taught elementary school, I told the parents, is, a parent would see a C on a child's report card and like flip out. And I would say, but a C is average. A C is on grade level. So your child is doing fine. It's when they do more and a little bit above that it's the B, and extremely above is the A. So are you sitting at a C? Because that means that's just where you need to be, right in the moment. And then if you want to dig deeper and you want to get in more, that's when you start up leveling. So for me, that's a lot of looking at myself and asking lots of questions. And again, if you don't know those right questions, seek out community. Even at schools of excellence,
we only do questions. We have no answers.
Even if you're not in the inner circle, the legacy group, the owners group, schools of excellence is a community, so that you can come in there and ask questions, and others that have been through it will help you. And so just even seeking that out is extremely important.
How do you fuel yourself now? Because you're not getting fueled with sharing your school is amazing, or the parents or the teachers. Like, you're not getting all of that feedback loops and kind of dopamine rushes over there. We all need to be seen and heard and valued and appreciated. And so I would love for you to share, for a CEO that's playing at your level, how do you feel yourself now? Because if we don't consciously choose new habits, we always go back to sabotage back there.
Right.
No.
Right. And I've done that too. So again, I don't want people sitting here listening because, honey, you usually, you talk to people that have gone through it all.
Yeah.
And so I want people to understand that, like you said, I am a normal person. I have gone through all of this, and I will still continue to go through some of these, through my entire CEO lifetime. So you will always go back a little to move forward a little. So I don't ever want anyone thinking of like, oh, it becomes this mindset and then you just live in that for the rest of your life. It does not. I have to tell myself a lot of times of like, no, Sharon, you need to step back. You need to fuel yourself. Your energy is low. Sometimes it's my admin team saying, Sharon, go home. Don't come in today. Go do something. So for me, the little things that I started to do, one of them is I have lots of pain in my joints and my muscles and things. And so I now go for that. I do a massage every other week. For me, that's not just the self-care part. I mean, a lot of people would go, oh, that's self-care. Or that's, For me, it's actually helping me control pain in my body to give me that energy back. So I'm doing it for a very purposeful reason. I've this year found out that I really want to do more things with my husband. That we had some time away and it was just amazing. And although we don't have little children at home, we have dogs at home that are my children. And I hate putting them in the kennel, but we have to do that more often now. We've already decided, and we have several more trips planned that I'm super excited about. And it's not, again, that's one of those things of, oh, we don't have the money. Oh, I don't want to spend the money on a trip. Oh, I don't want to take money from the business or whatever. Well, for one, who else takes money from the business? You should be taking it off the top.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't have to be amazing, huge, massive trips, right? It can be little things. Those are the things that fuel me. I mean, even just, I got to tell you, me sitting in the quiet is what also fuels my energy. Because no TV, no anything, and just when sometimes my husband will say, I'm going to be home late from work, and I go, oh, thank you. I love him. I love him. I want to see him, but I just want some quiet. I stay sometimes an hour or two after work, and I do nothing except just I go hang out on my couch. You know what I mean? Just one husband's. I need to refuel my energy. So, however, some of the littlest things, but I had to say no. This is my time. I'm sorry, husband. Or whatever, or yeah.
So, I want to wrap up here with two final questions, because the series is all about these ordinary moments create extraordinary results, and I think many people have the flip side where they think extraordinary effort, extraordinary whatever it is, right? Massive momentum is what creates this 10x or creates all of this, giant results that we're looking for. And I think when we're constantly seeking fireworks and extraordinary wins and giant momentum, we exhaust ourselves, we burn ourselves to the ground, and we can't be in business forever or for the long game, or however long we want to be, because we are putting too much effort into giant, extraordinary things. And it takes a lot of discipline, self-awareness, and confidence to find joy in ordinary moments. Because those are the things that you can consistently get, right? We don't have fireworks every day, but ordinary moments are every day. So I'd love for you to share with us, what are some of the ordinary moments that bring you joy and that give you meaning, both in your personal and in your professional career?
I would say, and some people would not say this, but I would say my one-on-ones with my staff it is an ordinary moment. I mean, we're sitting there for 30 minutes and we're chatting and we're, doing things, but those bring me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
On top of that then, and this has been happening a little bit more lately, is I'll stay later and it'll be 5:45, 10 till 6, and we're closing, and I'll just kind of hang out downstairs, and inevitably one person stays behind. I never know who it'll be, and they stay behind just to chat. A lot of my staff have, the love language of, spending time. And we just chat about anything. It's not, not always about work, of course, but it's me learning more about my teachers, and the fact that they want to spend some time with me on a personal level, really brings me a ton of joy. I could be doing 20 other things.
Yeah.
But again, it's the slowing down and spending time that brings me so much joy. And that has been happening a little bit more lately. And I've just really been fueled by those things. I would say for personally, spending time with my mom, who's bedridden, and my sister takes care of her. Just going and spending time there fuels me. I love one of my big projects in my head, is only purchasing and buying from locally owned places So I find this little giggle in myself when I find a place that's locally owned, and, it's just kind of like this small place, and I can go in and either sit down and have something to drink or eat, or, shop. Those are the things that truly, I would say, right now in my life. And again, they're just the simple, ordinary things, but that's how I fuel myself, and how, um, they can be extraordinary. And I love the one thing about that, like visiting locally owned, I always make sure I ask for the owner, and always try to chat it up a little bit with the owner and make a connection.
Wow.
And that energizes me,
Yeah.
because I love to hear their story. We know that that's a huge thing, right? What's a person's story? Oh my gosh, those are huge.
I think that's what enriches many people's lives is relationships, storytelling, the human connection. And we don't allow ourselves to do that in this forensic pace, to rush, to move faster, to do more, to accomplish more. And our lives are so beautiful because of the people that we meet, because of the stories that we hear, because of the stories that we get to tell. And that only happens. It happens deeper, in person, in connection, eye to eye, when you're sitting across of someone. Those are the biggest connections that happen in those moments. So I want to end today's conversation with I think you shared one of those questions in the beginning, when is enough enough? But what is a reflective question or journal prompt that you can invite our listeners to step into after listening to today's conversation?
Yeah, I can't already use mine. No,
We can use that.
I know. That is a big one for me, though, would be, what is your definition of enough? When will you meet that? And probably people would answer that never. I mean, if they're in a stage of not knowing. I guess I would really ask people to do more reflection. It's hard because you have to be in a state of mind where you're able to just sit there and not think about the 50 other things you need to do, but what is going on in this moment, and just write everything down that you can about reflecting on a certain issue, or it's not even has to be a problem. It could be something that, it could be the last thing that you celebrated, right? And then you reflect upon, how did that project go, or how did this go, and could I have done anything differently? And, what will, it's hard because it's so different for each person, right? That's what I think is different, because we all need or want or have something different.
But I think that's it. When is enough enough? In your marriage, in your relationships, with your kids, in your financials, in your school, in every bucket of life. When is enough enough? And then, yes, you always want to go deeper, but that's different than operating from a place of not enoughness versus I want to go deeper. I want more. I want something more elevated. I want something richer. I want something more meaning. That's different than scarcity, forensic, not enough, all of that kind of stuff. So,
and maybe part of it is that they write down that listing of what are those other things, right? Beyond finances, and children and staff, because I think that's where we deal from scarcity. No, what are those other things that you really want, that would make you feel fuller, right? And make you feel that joy.